Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel! I'm starting to wrap my head around the new Pokemon of Paldea, and there's some really cool new abilities that have been introduced into the game that I think is going to make playing competitive VGC really fun. In this video, I'm going to cover my take on the top 5 new abilities and their viability in VGC. Abilities are really important for Pokemon and can sometimes make or break a Pokemon's viability in VGC formats. We've seen powerful abilities like Intimidate be enough to make some Pokemon metastables, while other, more unique Pokemon abilities like Neutralizing Gas have allowed otherwise unimpressive Pokemon to accomplish amazing showings at major tournaments. Starting with number 5, let's talk about Armor Tail. Armor Tail is an ability that was introduced with the news of Girafarig's new evolution, Farigiraf. This ability prevents opposing Pokemon from using priority moves against Farigiraf and its partner. It's an incredibly powerful ability, but it's at the bottom of the list because it's only technically new, since it's just Tsarina's Queenly Majesty with a new name. Regardless, Armor Tail makes Farigiraf one of the premier Trick Room setters in the format, making it immune to Fake Out or Prankster Taunt from opposing Pokemon. It doesn't hurt that with Farigiraf's base 110 special attack, it can also apply a lot of pressure after setting the initial Trick Room too. Coming in at number 4, we have Zero to Hero. This is Palafin's ability. When Palafin enters the field, it is in its Zero form, which is pretty much what you'd expect with a name like that. Borderline useless. However, when Palafin switches out of combat, it transforms into its Hero form. That gives Palafin a 650 base stat total with 160 base attack. Almost as much as Zacian. It's practically a restricted Pokemon with that stat total. In Hero form, Palafin also gets access to its signature move Jet Punch, which is just Aqua Jet but 50% stronger. With a few solid coverage options as well as neat setup moves like Bulk Up, you might expect Palafin to be an incredibly centralizing Pokemon in a regional dex format. However, early VGC always tends to shape up to be an aggressive metagame, and being forced to switch out a Pokemon on turn 1 of the battle is generally seen as sacrificing too much momentum. Despite this downside, if positioned correctly, Palafin's hero stats could make it a destructive powerhouse. As I just mentioned, hyper offense is usually what defines an early VGC meta with a new game. As the weeks go by, the meta tends to settle down a little bit, with balanced teams rising to the occasion, as players tend to figure out how to cover for all of the offensive options. That's why Garganacl's Purifying Salt is coming in at number 3. Garganacl is pretty much the perfect anchor for a balance or stall team with its high defensive stats, access to Iron Defense, Body Press, and Recover, and of course its new signature ability. Purifying Salt makes Garganacl completely immune to all status conditions, and also gives it an added resistance to the Ghost type. Considering how important status moves can be to deal with an opponent who's trying to set up an endgame wall like Garganacl, Purifying Salt just makes the list of options your opponent has to deal with this wall even shorter than normal. Especially with the ability granting immunity to burn, Garganacl's Body Press is a formidable offensive option. If there's one thing VGC players like in a new format, it's a shiny new Wrecking Ball to play around with. And that's why we have to talk about Tatsugiri's signature ability, Commander. Basically, if Tatsugiri and Dondozo are on the field at the same time, the Tatsugiri will jump into the Dondozo's mouth. The trade-off here is that you have to essentially play with one Pokemon on the field, since Tatsugiri becomes untargetable and also unable to act. But the Dondozo's stats are sharply raised. All of its stats. Dondozo also has a base stat total of 530, so it's nothing to scoff at. This has been one of the most popular strategies to build around in the early days of the format, and will be a strategy that team builders have to respect even if it falls off in popularity. A commander-boosted Dondozo will simply sweep your entire team if you aren't prepared for it. There are a lot of really neat brand new abilities in the game, which made this list really hard to come up with. So before we get to our number 1 pick in the rankings, let's talk about some honorable mentions. Baxcalibur's Thermal Exchange gives it an immunity to burn. Paired with the new item Clear Amulet, it can make Baxcalibur and its 145 base attack very difficult to deal with. Flamigo's Co-Star is another really cool one, especially when paired with a Commander Tatsugiri Dondozo combo. Co-Star allows Flamigo to copy all the stat boosts of its ally when it enters the field. Finally, an added bonus for anybody who likes singles, Glimmora gets Toxic Debris, which scatters toxic spikes around the opponent's side of the field whenever it's hit by a physical attack. Last but certainly not least, fittingly taking the gold medal spot is Good as Gold. This ability really is as good as gold, preventing Gholdengo from being the target of any status moves. This means it can't be affected by moves such as Eerie Impulse, Spore, or even Perish Song, just to name a few. There are a lot of reasons that Gholdengo is on top of the early meta, from its really solid stats to its incredibly powerful signature move Make It Rain, but Good as Gold is a big factor in Gholdengo's success as well. Once the Legends of Ruin and Paradox Pokémon become legal, their abilities are so powerful that they're definitely going to shape the metagame, and so I really should mention them. The Legends of Ruin each produce a stat-reducing aura that applies to every other Pokémon on the field, lowering one stat by 25%. Wo-Chien and Ting-Lu lower attack and special attack respectively, while Chien-Pao and Chi-Yu lower defense and special defense respectively. The Paradox Pokémon have access to the abilities Quark Drive and Protosynthesis, which are amazing as well. The future Paradox Pokémon's Quark Drive raises their highest stat when they're on electric terrain, while the past Paradox Pokémon's Protosynthesis does the same thing in Sun. These boosts can also be activated by holding the Booster Energy item. These abilities are all monstrously powerful, so when these Pokémon become legal, you should definitely keep an eye out for them. That's all for now. Do you think that there's an ability that's top tier that didn't make the list? Let me know that and what strategies you're excited to use in VGC. Can't wait to see what teams form, and see you all in the next one.